The NBA world was shocked on the 2018 draft night when high school basketball phenom Michael Porter Jr. dropped all the way to the Denver Nuggets, who had the 14th pick in the draft. Michael Porter Jr. is a 6'10" sharpshooting offensive sensation who has proved to the 13 teams that pass on him on draft night why they have made a grave mistake. Let's analyze Michael Porter Jr. and why he is a superstar in the making. When thinking about Michael Porter Jr., the first aspect about him that will always come to mind is his ridiculous shooting ability. Porter Jr. is a lights-out shooter as he averaged 19 points per game on 44.5% from the three-point line and a blistering 54.2% from the field. This gives him an effective field goal percentage of 64.6%. These shooting splits are so high that his effective field goal percentage is the second highest in NBA history for anyone averaging more than 19 points per game. The only one ahead of him is Wilt Chamberlain. Keep in mind that Porter Jr. is 23 years old. One thing I love about Michael Porter Jr. is his supreme confidence. Porter Jr. absolutely loves to shoot the ball and is not afraid to pull it in a defender's face or launch it from deep. I love his FU mentality. Look at how he looks for someone to pass to, and then when he can't find someone, he looks the defender in the face and just shoots it. Or look at this one where he cranks a pull-up three-pointer with 10 seconds left on the shot clock. Or look at this one where he literally turns around before he even sees the ball go in the hoop. Porter's level of confidence is off the charts. For most players, this mindset is not something that you praise, but Porter is such a good shooter that taking these FU shots are actually really efficient. We see knockdown shooters on every team in the NBA, but what makes Porter Jr. special is that he is a lights-out shooter with great size. That's uncommon. Porter has that sort of KD effect where you can't really contest his shot. Porter Jr. has a relatively average release speed, but look at how high his release point is. On top of Porter Jr. being 6'10", he also jumps extremely high when he shoots, giving him one of the highest release points in the entire NBA. He has the ability to shoot right over most defenders. On top of his shooting ability, another standout part of Michael Porter Jr.'s offensive game is his ability to move without the ball. As I said before, Porter just loves to shoot, and I think that mindset of always wanting to score gives him a good instinct on the offensive side of the ball. Here, look at how he immediately recognizes that the paint is clear and sprints towards the vacated space for the easy layup. Or look here at how instinctive it is for him to execute a backdoor cut as soon as he sees his defender's head turn. As I said, Porter has great off-ball instinct, but being a 6'10" small forward also helps. Here he straight up catches the pass with 3 defenders swarming him. He is a massive target and a great finisher. Porter just has a high basketball IQ in general. Here he has a wide open corner 3, but he goes in for the easy cut instead. Because of Michael Porter Jr.'s tremendous size and shooting ability, Coach Mike Malone loves to run plays for Porter. This handoff mid-range shot is literally a free 2 points. If one screen isn't enough, they sometimes like to add another screen. They also love this backdoor screen that gives Porter the easy cut. Or this pin down screen that gives Porter enough room to launch a 3. Michael Porter Jr. just has such great scoring instinct and really understands how to navigate screens to get an open shot. All of these plays are relatively simple, but they work most of the time because he can shoot right over a defender or catch the ball right over them for an easy layup. Shooting and moving off the ball are two of Porter's greatest strengths, but he is not the most complete offensive player as he lacks the ability to create his own shot at a high level. Look how much room Porter has to work with here, but he still fails to create his own shot on a smaller defender. He lacks the explosion and the ball handling skills to get past defenders, so oftentimes he has to settle for a step back or a fadeaway. Even though Porter can't create his own shot at a high level, he's still pretty okay at it. His favorite move is a step back, which is deadly because of his size and shooting ability. He also has some potential to create off the dribble. Look at this move where he literally looks like KD and draws the foul. Porter does not drive that often, but when he does, it is pretty effective. I would also love to see Porter develop some sort of post game. Because Porter is a 6'10" small forward, he will oftentimes have a shorter player guarding him, and I want to see him use his size in a way that is different from just shooting over his defenders. He doesn't necessarily have to pull some crazy Hakeem Olajuwon skyhooks, but it would be nice to see him back a defender down at least a little bit so that he can get closer to the rim for an easy shot, the same way KD does here. Another way Porter gets easy points is his rebounding. Being a massive human certainly helps his ability to rebound, but Michael Porter Jr. also just has a great rebounding instinct. Look at how he's just always in the right place at the right time. Michael Porter Jr. barely gets any assists, but he does show flashes of playmaking from time to time. Look at how he draws the double team and finds the open Plumlee for the layup. Porter averaged 5 assists in high school, so there is some potential for him in the playmaking department. However, if he does want to become a more effective playmaker, he is going to need to learn how to drive and post up more, as I explained earlier. Driving and posting up will force the defense to double team him, allowing Porter to use his high basketball IQ to find the open man. Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball, where Michael Porter Jr. needs a little bit more work. Porter is a big body and has a tremendous wingspan, so just by nature he is a passable defender, but he can still be a negative at times. He scored a defensive box plus minus of negative 0.8 this year, meaning the team is 0.8 points worse with him on the court on the defensive end. Of course, defensive box plus minus is not the greatest stat in the world, but it does provide an idea of how good a player is defensively. Due to his size, Porter is good for getting blocks and a few steals. Look at this play where his man beats him and has an open dunk, but he's still able to recover and get the block. Porter's problem on the defensive end is not his ability to block shots or get steals, it is his defensive IQ. He oftentimes gets lost and allows the opposing team to get easy buckets. Here, the Suns run a handoff for Chris Paul, and Paul's defender points to where Porter's man is running to, indicating that he does not want to switch. Porter does not pick up on this, so his man gets open. The Suns proceed to set a back screen on Porter, and this is an easy layup if the pass wasn't off. This play could have been completely stopped if Porter just stayed with his man and did not get lost right here. Here, Porter realizes late that he switched on to the sharpshooting Devin Booker, and he gives him way too much space to shoot. In general, Porter can sometimes be a lazy and low IQ defender. While he is a superstar on offense, he has a lot of work to do on the defensive end. To his credit, he did improve a lot from his first year, but there is still a lot of work for him to do. Michael Porter Jr. is a special offensive talent who I believe has the legitimate potential to become the scoring champ one day. His historic shooting ability paired with his disruptiveness off the ball makes him a threat from literally anywhere on the floor, regardless of whether he is holding the ball or not. Once again, Michael Porter Jr. is 23 years old. The sky is truly the limit for him. I see Michael Porter Jr. as a solid third option on a contending team as of right now, but he has the potential to be the best scorer in the NBA one day.